What's up, Savages? Welcome to the Savage Syndicate podcast, where I inspire the average person how to become hard to kill. Physically, mentally, spiritually, financially. Each one of my guests is going to help you become hard to kill in one of those aspects. So sit back, enjoy, subscribe, share, and stay safe, stay savage, stay hard to kill. All right, Savage Syndicate, welcome to another podcast. My guest today is Clark Impastato. I hope I didn't mess that up again. I found him on Instagram. We follow a lot of like-minded, same people. He's a former U.S. Navy SEAL. He's a former military contractor who deployed multiple times to Israel, Afghanistan, Iraq, 8 years with the Phoenix Police. And I always read the Instagram bios because I feel that's more like true to who people are. So I'll read yours real quick. Believer, son, brother, husband, father, grandfather, gym rat, shooter, guitar dude, jits bro, podcaster, and eternal student of all things awesome. So I there's no way I could do a better intro than what you do for yourself. So thank you, Clark, for coming on. Welcome. And yeah, let's just jump right into it. Thank you.
Sweet. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, man. I'm excited. You know, like you mentioned, we found each other on Instagram and I'm like, dude, this dude, he's awesome, man. I just dig what you put out and your lifestyle. And so when you hit me up to be on, I was like, this is going to be, I think we're going to have a good conversation, man. You're a cool dude.
Well, thank you, brother. I'm actually in Instagram jail because I posted something that they fact checked and they said we're no longer going to promote, like, only a select few of my viewers get to see any of my stuff now. I don't even, I could, another guy, one of my friends is in it. And I said, how long are we in this? He says, they don't tell you, you're in it. So I'm glad you're seeing my stuff because a lot of people are today. So I don't know. I guess I pissed off the social media gods, but hey, it is what it is, right?
That's sad. Well, don't feel bad. My original account got zapped with no warning, nothing. I just went to log on. And it was just called Frogman 2155, and you know, it was decent. I got it up to about 96,000, which I didn't really care about the followers per se, but it was nice if you had to say something. You know, I've always had my accounts very similar to my old one, just kind of funny. And once in a while, if there's some current events, I might post a my 2 cents video, but not too often. I don't want my account to be too preachy, but you know, the summer of riots and the what police were going through because of my background. Once in a while, I'd post a video, but I posted a video of a lieutenant general speaking about the origins of COVID, and dude, they zapped it, no warning.
Really?
I went to like check my account, nothing, and I checked my email, and they just said, "Boop, you're done." And I was like, "What?" I mean, no warning, no chance of like, "Hey, bro." What really hurt was I had about 6 years of content on there, and I always joked that IG was my free iCloud. So why back up pictures anywhere else, right? I didn't know they could zap it or they would zap it. And so there's pictures and videos that just are gone forever. And I wish they would at least give you a window to retrieve your data. Cause
So have you tried to reach out to them? There's nothing there they can do about it?
I emailed them and I said, at least, you know, let me access that account for a week or something. Cause I put a lot of effort into that stuff. And that was my concern. You know, again, I don't really followers, whatever. You know, it's nice to have a platform that if you want to say something, you can, or help a buddy with a business, or, you know, that's what I used it for. If, you know, whatever, you know, I saw some cool products, I might kind of blast it out, but it was a lot of after I left the police department, not to get ahead of myself, but I did a lot of firearms training and worked with different people. And it was just really cool footage that I just didn't think to back up on an external hard drive or anything. So that hurt when they clip your wings, man. It's kind of brutal, and a lot of pictures and videos are gone forever, man. So it's sad to see they're doing something like that to you. I don't know why.
Yeah, I posted something that I don't even, I mean, I try to use this as a marketing platform, right? I have a lot of my goofy stuff, fun stuff. I like to do serious things, but I think this is just like, hey, you know, I could try to teach people how to be hard to kill, but at the end of the day, I'm still a jokester. I still like to have fun. I surf and do all that. And I walk the fine line of, I don't want to go too far political, this or that. I usually have funny memes. And I think one it was a fact. It was something that was fact checked, and it said this is completely. I think it was, well, this probably screwed me. Donald Trump Jr. Or no, what his son is. I don't know what one of his sons. He
Oh,
posted.
Baron Trump or
Yeah,
something?
well, no, the one who's pretty vocal is it Junior? I guess it's Donald.
Yeah, Don Jr., yeah, he's pretty,
Yeah, and so I just reposted something of his, and bam, I got the
damn.
notification. Which is, and another thing
Wow.
that's funny is I did and this actually got 10 million views. One of my reels about a cholo starting to fight with a trained fighter, and he got the guy did a double leg, took him down, cracked the back of his head, and I just said, trained versus untrained, trained's going to win 99.9% of the time. And TikTok took that down. They said you're flagged. 3 flags. I'm out. I'm out of that one for showing too much violence. And I'm like,
Wow.
I can argue it and I can go down that rabbit hole, but it's like, you know what? It's their platform. I gotta abide by their rules, or something like
Yeah.
happened to you. And I don't even have 96,000. I don't even think I've cracked like 1,500 or something. But it sucks because it's like at the end of the day, it's their platform, right? I control the controllables. I can't do it, so I just maybe more happy surf stuff is what they'll like. I don't know, but
Yeah,
I'm
well,
not
you're
gonna try to
using
figure it out.
but you were using that as kind of a learning point, to encourage people to train and, hey, trained versus untrained, you're
Yeah,
gonna do better, you're gonna be better off, it's not, and what's funny is I have a lot of buddies in the training space of firearms and stuff, and they get their wings clipped all the time, but then social media is filled with garbage, just young girls shaking their butts, and it's just like, so you'll let young people sexualize themselves, no problem, but when you're trying to put out content to help people be more prepared in martial arts or firearms, or it's kind of weird what they allow and what they don't allow, you know?
I guess maybe to mess with the algorithm, we got to do a goofy dance first, and then show our educational stuff. Maybe
Working
that's how
some,
we'll get
yeah.
past it. Yeah, I
I
don't.
think we're onto something, dude.
Yeah, because the more I think about how to this algorithm thing, the more I'm like, I don't know it. Like, there's guys who are doing, or girls, guys doing random shit. I'm like, that's why.
Yeah,
And then I'm trying to put out something like, or share somebody else's. I'm always trying to add value, and I get snubbed. And like and I don't know. We
yeah,
bang our
same.
heads into the wall trying to figure this out. Unless we get our own platform, which there was
Yeah,
a guy on Sean Ryan's show, Eric Prince, I believe it was.
yeah,
He's got a new phone coming out called Unplugged, where they don't sell any of your advertising. It's top of the line. You hit a button, and if
yeah.
you do get in trouble, you hit a button and it erases the whole. And I'm like, whoa! And I
I'm
think that,
looking into that. Yeah, I'm gonna
yeah,
look into that phone,
I was
man.
just listening to that episode, and he said there's about 500 being released at the end of September, and then they're gonna keep rolling them out, thousands here and there. But I emailed because I listened to him on my walks, and I wrote a quick email. Eric Prince, unplugged phone. Look at that, because I mean,
Yeah,
this thing is just, it's a good marketing tool, but it's also, I mean, they're listening to everything I'm saying right now, and
I know,
I can
I
try to
know.
figure
Yeah,
out.
when I heard that, I got excited. I'm like, "Oh, I'll wait for a couple waves of that because I'm sure they're gonna be scooped up quick," but that concept is,
Yeah,
yeah, anything Eric Prince does, I'm a big fan of, man.
he was amazing. Like, how, like when Sean was asking him about a history question about something,
So smart, dude.
I was blown. I have an Army Ranger friend, and I was like, "Have you heard of Eric Prince? Like, everything this guy is talking about is like, he's so quick, he's so knowledgeable. It's so I love the guy. I
Yeah,
need to have him on there every day. I'd listen to it, but yeah, great
yeah.
guy. But all right, I think we can keep doing this. Let's jump a little bit into just tell us about yourself a little bit. Where did you grow up? How did you become into the military? A little bit about yourself. We'll start from that.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. I grew up in Colorado, just outside of Colorado Springs, little sleepy mountain town called Cascade, Colorado. So it was fun, man. I just kind of tried to live like it was the movie Red Dawn every day, man. I just ran around the neighborhood with my BB gun and built tree forts and just a little hillbilly kid, kind of maybe like a episode of South Park, man. It was fun. I had a great
Good old days.
childhood. Yeah, it was, man, it was fun. I mean, sledding, snowball fights,
Yeah.
playing hockey, things like that. And so I had a real good childhood. Single mom raised me and my brother, and she got us really involved with sports. Any sport we wanted to do, she would support it and stuff because she was trying to wear both hats as mom and dad. And so she was real clever to get us mentors like coaches and things like that. And so I got into, as a young kid, soccer and karate were like my big things because, I was a 70s, 80s kid. So as you know, karate was super popular back then. And so enjoyed the benefits of martial arts early on. Got more into hockey in the high school years and had a '69 Camaro. Don't know how I didn't die in that thing, dude, because I raced that dude everywhere, man.
Yeah.
Just working on it, keeping it going, and it was just that was probably my favorite part of my childhood was just going into town and drag racing down Nevada Avenue and, the good old days, what are you gonna do?
The street lights come on, like, none of this now where you can't everybody's on their phones like we were talking about. I grew up in the '80s as well, I was born in '75, and it just seemed more carefree, like, the parents we lived in, suburbs of, like, 4 blocks, and I just yelled at my mom, "I'm going to 4 blocks," and we would just cause havoc and run around, we had some open fields by us. Yeah, not a care in the world back then, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, we're the same age. I was born in '73, so we grew up in the same era, man, and
There you go.
luckily for us, video games sucked so bad, you played them for 10 minutes and went outside anyway because that Atari wasn't too impressive, you know?
And we had to beat them up to get them to work, so eventually they just stopped working altogether.
Yeah, I actually just bought a retro Atari that came out. It's called the Atari something Pro, and it's got the original joystick with the one button on the thing. And so I'm like,
Really?
oh, dude, I got to play all these old horrible games that we played as a kid, man.
My sister-in-law got my son it wasn't Atari, but it had those old school Atari games, like the Pong and all that stuff,
Nice.
and it was like he goes, "Oh, this is not it's not flashy enough for the kids nowadays." I'm like, "This is what I grew up on." I even had
Yeah.
so it was Atari in television. You remember in television?
Yeah.
The
Oh,
little
yeah, for
disc on
sure.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember all that too, like, oh, Burger Time, King Kong, or yeah.
Yeah. Well, the games were simple enough you could play them. Like, I look at what kids play now, and just the controller has like 50 buttons, dude. And
Oh, yeah.
every time you try to move around, I mean, it's so those kids are on another level when it comes to gaming because our games were so easy.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
play I play with my son. I can't play Fortnite because he gets mad at me and yells, "Yeah, you don't know what you're doing." I'm like he goes, "Go YouTube how to play Fortnite." I'm like, "I'm not getting that involved." I still play Madden with them, and I got like 2 or 3 plays that I know, and I just keep running them, running them. I'm always smoking them. He's like, "You gotta do something else." I'm like, "Nope, I found what works. I know what these buttons do
Uh,
here. I'm beating you every time with this." So,
yeah, stick with what works, man. That's funny. Isn't that funny? You have to like research how to play a game. They're so hard. Like,
yeah.
dude.
Well, it's supposed to be. It was like a, hey, I'll play Fortnite with you. I have no idea what I'm doing, and all he was doing because I we teamed up and I was slowing him down. He just kept yelling at me. I'm like, son, this is not fun for me, man. You just keep yelling at me.
Stop yelling
He's like,
at
go
me.
watch YouTube. I'm like, dude, I want to spend time with you, and this is how we're gonna do it. I'm not gonna go watch you. Well, then we can't play. Then we can't play. I'm like, fine, dude. Let me know when you want to surf. I'm over this
Yeah.
Fortnite shit.
There you go. Hit the beach, get some mother nature in, dude. That'll
Exactly.
that always do good.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
So, did
So
you know right away that you wanted to go in the military?
well, I caught the bug from my mom. My mom was a part of the World War II generation, so she loved to watch old war movies that came up on TV, just Tora, whatever it is, and so I became a big fan of World War II, specifically the Pacific Theater. I really wanted to be. There was a TV show back in the day. I don't know if you ever caught it. It was called like the Black Sheep Squadron. And it
Mm.
was just these World War II pilots that were fighting in the Pacific. And I thought, dude, I really want to be a pilot, man. It just looked cool. I lived by the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. Every graduation, the not the Blue Angels, what do they call those? The Thunderbirds would fly like over our house, over the mountain range, and on the other side of the mountain was the Air Force Academy. So I grew up with Iron Eagle, the movie Iron
Oh,
Eagle, and then of
I love
course
that
Top
one.
Gun.
Lou
Yeah,
Lou
so
Gossett
I was
Jr., is that what it was the
yeah,
guy?
Lou Gossett Jr. was Chappie, dude. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
love
was
that.
a
That
great
was my
movie.
favorite movie. Everyone else was like chewing on Top Gun, which I loved, but Iron Eagle was that was my
Yeah,
jam for sure. I'm gonna grow up and fly F-16s, but I think I realized in high school that I probably wasn't smart enough to be a pilot because I knew like we all have gifts, right? And just I knew the type of intellect it took to fly a fighter jet. I said, maybe I could fight my way in to be a pilot, but I'm gonna get stuck on a C-130 flying pallets around, or you know what I mean? Like I don't know, I had a feeling.
yeah.
So yeah, just World War II movies with my mom got me interested in the military, and I grasped the concept of like a greater cause. I thought, how cool is that you could fight for your country, especially evil dude like Hitler ruining Europe or something. I said, yeah, I want to stand up to people like that. And I was always kind of that dude. I've always had I hate to say a sheepdog mentality because that's so overplayed, especially on social media, but it's true. I mean, I look at when I played football, I was a linebacker. When I played hockey, I was a defenseman. I always like to kind of protect or defend things like that. And, I would stand up to bullies in school because I thought I was Daniel-san, Karate Kid dude. And I always felt like protecting people that couldn't protect themselves. And I thought joining the military would be the ultimate way to live that lifestyle and learn more skills and all that. So Rambo movies, all the movies we grew up with, what kid didn't want to run around the jungle and fight bad people. So what sealed the deal was when the Persian Gulf War kicked off when I was in high school, and CNN was kind of a new thing back then, and so I just watched the Persian Gulf War 24 hours a day. I got way too into it. I bought Saddam toilet paper. I mean, I was all the little trinkets you could buy during that war. I had all this stuff and I was so into it. I watched the Marines just push in and crush everything. And I thought, man, I want to be a Marine for
Mhm.
sure. So that's kind of the Persian Gulf War, watching that real time on CNN back in the day. I said, this is what I'm going to do for sure. So it went from like a fascination of my youth to a decision in high school. Yep, I feel this. This is good, and I'm probably not smart enough to be a pilot, but with those Marines, dude, that's pretty cool too, man. I want to do that. So that's what caught the bug, man.
Wow, I remember vividly watching like the green screen at night, the green goggles, and everything kicking off, and it was like it started, it's going.
Mm.
I remember that when I was a kid too, and I was like, wow, shit was
Yeah.
hitting the
Well, that's the
fan.
first time we got to see that because, we always heard about the Vietnam War. We could see documentary footage of things, but yeah, that was the first time it was like you said, you could just see it,
Yeah,
night vision stuff and helicopters. And I was like, man, I was at that perfect age as a teenager. And it's good because it saved me from a lot of the stuff maybe teenagers go through. I mean, I had a pretty sheltered childhood. I dated the same girl all through high school, took her to both proms, just cruised around in my Camaro. And, so I was a pretty stable kid. But once I was focused on joining the military, I started doing research, reading books, getting in shape. I always lifted weights for sports, but now I was getting more into like running, and I bought a backpack and just anything I thought I could do to prepare myself for the Marine Corps. And after I graduated high school, I wasn't sure what to do. A lot of my buddies were going off to college. Some of them were joining the military, and I was kind of torn. I ended up going to college. I went to a small college in Southern Colorado called Adams State. And when I was there, it's kind of funny. I forgot about some of my twists and turns in my military journey. I initially signed up. I had a buddy that was part of a reserve artillery unit in the Marine Corps. So I went to the Marine recruiter, signed up for that because I could still attend college. And then another buddy said, well, look, if you're already in college, dude, why don't you become an officer? Go to OCS. And I was like, oh, I never thought of that. Yeah. Well, I mean, why not? If I'm
mhm,
already in college. So I got out of my contract for the reserve artillery unit, signed up for this OCS program, and I actually went between the sophomore and junior year out to Quantico, Virginia for you had a choice. You could do a split course or a combined course. So you could do 2 summers of 6 weeks or you could do 1 summer of 10 weeks. And I just chose the split course for whatever reason. So between my sophomore junior year, I went out to Quantico, graduated the juniors course, and then I was to return after my junior year for the seniors course, and then upon graduation I would have been commissioned. But it's weird how life works. So when I was going through the juniors course, I wasn't super stoked at OCS. It was kind of not what I thought. It's not like Marine boot camp. There are parts of it that are, but it's a lot of classroom. They're grooming you for the officer corps. They
mhm.
they rotate you through positions in your platoon so you could be like candidate platoon commander or whatever. And so they're trying to teach you to delegate tasks and all that. And I wasn't enjoying myself. And it just so happens while I was there, they give you 24 hours liberty. You could leave from Saturday night until Sunday night. My aunt lived in the area. So, long story short, I'm with my aunt one of these weekends while I'm out there. We go to a dinner party of 2 Army officers and they show me a book. They said, hey, Mary says that you're in Marine Corps OCS. That's, Marines are real tough. Have you ever heard of the Navy SEALs? And I'm like, "Ah, yeah." I mean, there was that movie that came out, the Charlie Sheen
Charlie
movie we
Sheen.
probably both saw. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought it was cool, but I always thought Marines, Marines, Marines. So she showed me this book, and it was Dick Marcinko's book called Red Cell. Turns out it was like his second book in the Rogue Warrior series that he wrote. And on the cover, he's kind of a biker looking dude. He's got a ponytail and a big beard. And I was kind of like, wow, it doesn't look very military. I mean, not from what I've seen the last few weeks at Marine OCS. And I kind of read the back cover and I thought, that's interesting, but I didn't pay too much attention to it. But after I graduated the juniors course, I returned back to Colorado to start my junior year of college. And I saw that book on sale at a grocery store for $5. And it was kind of weird, man. It's kind of weird how some things just happen in your life. And I said, "Oh, yeah, that's that book from the dinner party, man. Let me see what these dudes are about." Man, when I started reading through that book, I was like, this is what I want. These dudes, man. And so I just deep dove into that fucking book, started buying any book I could, which there wasn't a lot of information back then about the teams,
Mhm.
but every book I could get my hands on. Of course, there was no Amazon back then. Like you had to hunt for material, but
Yeah.
everything I got, I said, this is my tribe. These are my dudes. And so I had to figure out, well, how do I get out of this Marine contract? I'm due to rotate to the seniors course out in Quantico. So I remember calling my officer selection officer, Captain Clemens out of Denver. And I said, "Hey, sir, I think I want to leave your program and I want to join the Navy." And he was kind of shocked. He's like, what do you want to do in the Navy? I said, "Well, I want to enlist. I want to become a SEAL. I want to go to BUDS." And he just he said, "Look, obviously I believe in you to put you in my program, but do you know the chances of making it through their program? It's like, 80-90% failure rate. Like, I think you should stay where you're at." And I said, "I know, but I've read this book. I'm really excited about these dudes." And he said, "Fair enough." He says, "I want you to hang up and write down a list of pros and cons and call me back in 30 minutes." And I said, "Okay." So I did that. Excuse me. I wrote down all the cons, and there was a lot. I'm going to leave college. I'm not going to be a Marine officer, whatever it was. There was a lot of reasons to not make this decision. And then when it came time, for the pros, I was like, there's really nothing logically that says I should be making this move. And I just wrote down because I really want to. And I called him back and I said, "Well, your list doesn't look good. It looks like I'm making the wrong decision. I mean, everything is on the con side, and the only pro is I decided I want to do it." And so he said, "Dude, at the end of the day, if you have a wild hair up your ass about this Bud stuff and the SEAL stuff," he said, "I mean, what can I do? If you really want to go over there, I think you should stay where you're at. You're about to graduate college, get a degree, get a commission." So I said, "Well, let me talk to my mom. I value her opinion." And so I call her up and I told her, and she denies saying this, but I remember it very vividly when I told her. She said, "Well, what do you want to do in the Navy?" I said, "I want to be a Navy SEAL." And she said, "They're a suicide squad." And she will deny it to this day. But I remember, it was a very funny moment. But I was like, "Mom, just trust me. There's something to this, and I just need your support." And especially being raised by a single mom, she's the center of my universe. And so she did. She gave me her blessing. She said, "Well, I believe in you. Anything you want to do." And anything a good mom would say, right? Even though she probably
You're a
pardon me,
baby
even though
boy.
she
Just yeah.
yeah, I'm the baby boy, and she's thinking, "What is he doing? He's gonna be a college graduate. What mom wouldn't be proud, an officer in the Marine Corps?"
Yeah.
But, I ended up making that decision, and, uh, and I'm glad I did. I mean, it's as looking back on life, we make a lot of decisions, and some of them are gambles, but I do think that people that are afraid to take risks with great risks comes great rewards. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to play it safe, I don't know. A lot of my buddies, have had kind of the same job at the cable company or whatever for 30 years. And hey, that's great. I'm not bagging on that.
Mhm.
But looking back on my life, I'm glad that I chose the path of uncertainty, the path of adventure. And that was my first leap of faith. Something inside me was telling me when I was reading these books, I thought I can picture myself hanging out with these dudes, like their personality, what they focus on, their priorities. It's not about starched uniforms and shiny boots. These dudes are about exercising, shooting. They're kind of gnarly dudes, and they seem to be. And my first impression was right. team guys are mischievous, but they have good hearts.
Yeah.
You know, they're not robotic like a lot of the military is. Like they're just kind of they're the most unmilitary military guys. You know, they're kind of normal dudes that do pretty good shit. And so I'm glad I trusted my instinct. I ended up joining the Navy and pardon me, sorry about that.
No, you
Uh yeah, I ended up joining the Navy, went to boot camp, and that was kind of culture shock to go from Marine OCS to Navy boot camp was a very two it was apples and oranges for sure, man. It was very different. And
did they give
so
you shit for already being starting the Marine process?
well, they asked if you have any prior military background, you know, the first day. And so, you know, I told them that I was, you know, I just graduated from Marine Corps OCS the summer prior from the juniors course. And they put me in charge. They put me as recruit chief petty officer. So now I'm in boot camp in charge of like 80 fucking dudes. And I was a little older because of college. Maybe I was like 22 and they're all 18-year-olds. And so I was the buffer between the cadre and all these knuckleheads. And I was like, dude, it was challenging because I had to herd these cats and march them around and, you know, get punished for everybody. But they were cool, man. I mean, I did a good job. And, you know, the further you get down that path, and it's not that long, it's only a couple months, but yeah, being the RPOC, the recruit chief petty officer, was a challenge for sure, man. But you know, I was also shocked at the uniforms, dude. When we got issued uniforms, I thought I thought the Navy had evolved since World War II. All these World War II movies I told you that I would watch with my mom, the Cracker Jacks with the bell bottoms and the little scarf. I'm like, we still wear that shit? Oh man.
You're like, I'm out. I want to go back to the Marine.
Uh-huh. It was almost a deal breaker, dude, because at least in the Marines you get camouflage and some boots and like real shit. You know, now I get this Cracker Jack uniform. I was like, I don't know, maybe I did make a mistake, man. I don't know.
You're like back onto the cons uniform.
Oh, mm-hmm. Big time. Yeah, had I known, that would have been on that side of the document, man.
Little did that guy
So
know, and you say Clemens, all he had to do was show you a picture of what they wear. You're like, okay,
this is
I'm
what
in
you
the Marines.
yeah, good. All right. Here's a picture. You can look like this or this. I would have easily said, all right, you got me.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, so, but yeah, I was still happy to be serving. You know, like I talked about earlier, I felt that I wanted to be a part of a greater cause, and that was a part of that, even in Navy boot camp in the Navy. So back then, I I signed up for the dive farer program, and so they kind of guaranteed you a slot from buds if you could pass the SEAL screening test at the end of boot camp. The trick with that is there is zero physical PT in Navy boot camp, at least when I went through. There's no early morning PT. So I was the only dude that wanted to be a SEAL in my whole division. So at night, while all the little knuckleheads were sleeping, I was in the back of the squad bay doing jumping jacks, doing push ups. My swimming wasn't very strong because I'm a hillbilly from Colorado. You know, I didn't grow up surfing or water polo or swim team. I probably should have been a ranger or green beret looking back on it, but I just read this book, so here we are. And so you know, for 2 months, I wasn't able to exercise. At least when I was in college, I did have a buddy on the swim team. He taught me the side stroke and all that. So I got my chance to pass the SEAL screening test at the end of boot camp, and I passed it just by the swim by like 2 seconds. I mean, it was just I had to swim scared, dude. Pull-ups, push-ups, the run, no problem. So I got my contract, and my at this time I had a girlfriend and 2 kids in college. I flew back from boot camp. I married her because I wanted her to have the benefits and all that of being in the military and being a dependent and all that. We probably should have stayed friends, but anyway, I thought I was doing the right thing. So she stayed in college in Colorado with my 2 kids, and I drove out to Coronado to go to Buds. My first Buds class was 204, and I was doing good. You know, I was in first phase. I was crushing it, but there was pre-cell phone, so every day I'd be on a payphone calling her and stuff. And our relationship wasn't doing so good. We were kind of drifting. She was still in that college mode. She was stuck there in Colorado with 2 kids, but her parents were close by, so they helped. And I was stuck in this unknown world. She had no idea what I was doing. And so, you know, I was there for about 5 weeks, and Hell Week was that 5th week, and things weren't going good between me and her. And I started talking to my first phase proctor, Charlie Eschliman, and I just said, you know, I think I gotta quit and go back and do something with my family. Like I'm worried about a divorce. It's not going well. and he was cool. I think he had 5 kids, so he's a family man, which was luckily.
Mhm.
Some instructors are just wild single dudes. So anyway, I said, "Look, I wanna come back, but I gotta get my family somehow. But I wanna do Hell Week first because that's everything else I've done in first phase, I'm confident I can come back and do, but Hell Week is this big thing, right? So I wanna at least do enough of Hell Week or complete Hell Week or whatever it is. I'll know when it's time to go, but I wanna see it. I wanna
Mhm.
see this devil up close so that it's not this monkey on my back if I'm lucky enough to find my way back." And so I did. At some point in that first Hell Week, I went up to Charlie Eshelman and I said, "Okay, I'm good." So he wrote me a letter to recommend for me to return in a year. So I drove back to Colorado. I got my wife and kids, and I told her, "Look, I've given up a lot of shit. Trust me, you got to come back. I'm going to be stationed on a ship in San Diego." And so she agreed. She kind of started to understand. Okay, he still cares about us. Whatever. I saved my marriage at that point. So we came back to San Diego. I got stationed on the USS Shiloh as an undesignated seaman, so I had no job whatsoever. Did a deployment right away, a Westpac, and that's the first time I got to meet SEAL Team 5 in the Persian Gulf. We were following. It turns out it was Bin Laden just blew up the Air Force barracks in Saudi Arabia in '96,
Mhm.
and so they flew on SEAL Team 5. And I caught this dude in the chow line, and I said, "Hey, dude, after deployment, I got my chit to go back to Buds. Do you have any advice?" Talked with this dude. He was super cool, man. He just said, "Hey, if I can do it, you can do it." And it sounds like a simple comment, but it humanized the teams. This is the first SEAL that I really met. He was super cool. Everyone in the military kind of treats you like shit, but this dude was so cool. So I've already seen Buds. I already got through most of first phase. I got through a portion of Hell Week before I decided, how much am I going to damage my body when I know I'm leaving? I just want to see this devil up close. And so I got orders. I came back and I got back to Buds in 1997 for class 215. And I just knew this was my moment, dude. Other than getting hurt or maybe performance dropped, I don't know. But I did very well in 204. I was very comfortable with the routine. And it's pretty common. A lot of guys have to go through a couple times. But I knew when I showed back up for 215, I'm like, this is it, man. This is my moment. All my ducks in a row. My wife and kids are here. My wife now is into the Navy culture out in San Diego, and she knows what I'm attempting, and I need her support and the kids close by. And so, long story short, I crushed 215, started with them, finished with them. Had a great time doing it. A lot of characters came out of 215. Dave Castro, one of the key guys in CrossFit. Brandon Webb's written some books. I mean, it's Mike Ritland. He was a 215er. He rolled in third phase. And so it was we had a good class, man. A lot of quality dudes came out of there. So I'm glad I was able to come back and accomplish that and graduate. And so that really was kind of the beginning of the path that I always wanted to be on. But it was a little curvy getting there, with
Yeah.
this and figuring this out. And but I tell people, don't be afraid to try things, fail, come back, readjust. Like your plan's probably not going to just roll out perfectly the first time. I don't know anyone that has ever had that happen. So
Well, it shows the person that you are too, not quitting and knowing like all these little roadblocks. A lot of people during that story probably would have said, I'm going back home to Colorado and do the easy part." That's super, like, that's cool that you went all the way through and ended up in 215 and crushing it.
yeah.
People say, "Oh, this is the hardest thing I've ever done." You're like, "Yeah, badass. I did it." That's cool.
Yeah, well, at least I had seen it and I knew how to prepare. So the year and a half I was out in the fleet, as best I could, everything was focused on that. And the fleet was tough. I always joke that it's like being on a ship is like being on a floating prison.
Mhm.
But I kept a journal, and every day I would write, "A bad day in the fleet will be a good day in Buds." And I knew that when I come back, I'm so prepared mentally. I've read so many books. I know what kind of shape to be into, because I was there for almost 6 weeks. So
Yeah.
I got a really good snapshot of what Buds was like. And what was cool is a lot of the same instructors were still there because they usually do 2 or 3 year rotations. So my first phase proctor in 204, Charlie Eschleman, was there when I showed up for 215. And the first day they're making you do push ups and thrashing you. He says, "I see a lot of familiar faces here. This makes me happy." And he kind of walks around and then he comes back up And he goes, "Good to see you again, Impastato." Because he and I had a lot of heart talk conversations about family
Yeah.
and things. And so it was really cool that he recognized me and was happy to see me come back. And so just me showing back up was already a little bit of a success story. And I caught that vibe and wrote it, man, you know?
Nice. How did your swimming? I know I talked to William Branham, and he said the swimming part when they're it's like jiu-jitsu underwater, he said. How hard was that for you? Or, since you said you weren't that great of a swimmer, how difficult was that to get through and pass with flying colors?
That was the hardest part of buds for me was the swimming. Just because, I mean, I knew how to swim and I would go to pools as a kid and just swim around, but nothing that was structured. And so I was the worst swimmer in my buds class for sure. Just looking at 215. And so they would do like laps at the pool. And so the other kids would already be lined up on the pool and I'd still be swimming. And when I touched the edge, they would say, go. And so they had a little 20-second rest.
Big,
And I
yeah,
didn't. I'd have to just get up, do my push ups, and jump back in. But what I like about buds, and a lot of people don't know this, is that they do set you up for success. They do want you to pass, but there's a standard. And they're very clear about the standard. Some other selection processes, they don't tell you what's going on. They just say, "Hey, show up to the classroom at 7 tomorrow." And then on the whiteboard it's a mystery. Where buds, there's no mysteries. You know what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and the standards. So one thing they did is they said, for those of you that are struggling swimming, we're going to have an instructor at the pool on Saturday at noon. You better be there. So if you're willing to put in that extra effort, they come out of character
yeah.
and I was there every Saturday, and they teach you technique. And as you know, in the water, technique's everything, and jujitsu technique's everything. But I was just swimming scared. I mean, my technique was shit. So after a few Saturdays, understanding the side stroke, the combat side stroke is primarily what we do. And once I got that down, dude, and I realized that I was my own worst enemy in the water, I became a good middle of the pack swimmer, man. I mean, I was just like, oh my God, what a, like anything, you're doing it wrong and you butt your head. But once you get the technique, it instantly just unlocks a whole new world. So I went from the worst swimmer to nice middle of the pack dude. So I figured that stuff out in the pool. So by the time we started doing our open ocean swims, we do 2 mile open ocean swims for time. I was well in the middle of the pack, and then eventually you get fins, which helps, and so I was able to evolve as a swimmer pretty good. Now the jujitsu in the water, pardon me, that's the dive phase where
Hmm.
they do the pool week. They call it Hell Week in the pool, and that's where so if me and you are dive buddies, like I'll have one set of gear and you have nothing, we have to jump into the 15-foot section of the pool, and in a very in sequential order, I have to give you pieces of my equipment. We have to buddy breathe the whole time. And then eventually you have all the shit and then I don't. And then they make you surface and they do a lot of that type of stuff. So for the dive week, the pool week is probably the most challenging stuff you do in the water. So you'll go down with your twin 80s and they'll have 2 or 3 or 4 instructors come down and do surf hits on you, and they're punching you in the stomach. They rip your mask off, rip your regulator out, tie knots, and then you're trying to trace it. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of funny. I learned to to relax early on. And when I was in grade school, I would get picked on at the bus stop, and these bullies would kind of rough me up and take my hat and throw it in the street and stuff. And so I just kind of laughed. And as they were like tuning me up under the water, I just kind of had a flashback of being a kid, and I made it playful. So it
Yeah.
was real fun. I kinda started laughing. I said, "Boy, this is like the 3rd grade all over again."
Were you doing any of those toughs, like the water jujitsu in the ocean? Because I know once you change it into the ocean, like I could hold my breath sitting here for quite a long time, but when I'm in the water surfing, I can't hold my breath. 10 seconds seems like forever. So were you doing some of this hardcore training in the ocean with the waves and all that?
Well, no, not not like that. So everything we do, we start in the pool, then
Mhm.
we do in the bay, and then we do out in the ocean. And
Okay.
so by the time you get out in the ocean, they don't mess with you. Like you just said, the ocean will mess with you plenty. They don't have to do shit. The only thing they would do to mess with us is when the surf would pop up. Then there was IBS time. We'd take our inflatable boat smalls. You see all the videos of the classes paddling out and the big dumpers come,
Yeah.
and then it was just they would be up there with popcorn watching us. It was showtime for the instructors. So that's the only time they would mess with us in the ocean is when those waves got big. You just knew those boats were coming out because they were just going to watch us get thrashed and end up in the washing machine and paddles everywhere. And
Well, I
so,
being a surfer, I always see people get nervous and panicking, and what I do is because I've saved a few people, is you take them past the breakers, right? And they're panicking, they just wanna go to shore. It's like, "No, take a couple deep breaths. We're safer outside here, outside the lineup." And, you get people like Colorado or in Iowa or whatever, they think the ocean is just like, "Oh, this big playground." But once they get worked by a wave, like
oh,
you said, when the
dude,
waves got big, it doesn't matter if I'm 6'2", 220, whatever, that wave is gonna do what it's gonna do to me, and it's just
yeah.
like Jiu-Jitsu, right? It's like you think you're tough, Mother Nature says, not today, motherfucker."
That's right. The ocean will humble you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
It is.
wow,
I just took to it though. See, I got lucky as bad of a swimmer as I was in the beginning, not having any background in the water, whatever they told me to do, I just did it. I was a blank piece of paper. And so some guys that were surfers, some guys that were divers, maybe they had some bad habits or maybe some ego or whatever. Some other guys struggled in certain phases of the diving or whatever they told me to do, I didn't know any better. And so I did it by the numbers. So once I learned how to swim, everything else in the water was no problem because I just did exactly what they expected. And so some of the diving gets tricky because we quickly get off of the open circuits and we go into the draggers, which is the closed, the rebreathers.
mhm,
And that's a whole different world. The bubbleless rigs that we dive has a whole different set of tables you got to adhere to because diving pure oxygen is pretty dangerous. So, and the way we build our canisters, if there's a leak, it turns into this toxic Alka-Seltzer that can shoot down your neck and jack you up and stuff. And so there's a lot of things that go along with our diving, not to mention at some point, then you end up diving with explosives on your back and you're planting the shit on the bottom of ships. And so it gets real complicated real fast. The learning curve and dive phase is steep.
mhm.
Um, the first 2 weeks is in the classroom, and there's a lot of failures in that, which is kind of surprised me that there was such a heavy academic portion to buds that a lot of people aren't aware of. The learning curve is very, very steep, but I did all right. Eventually, third phase rolls around and it's land warfare phase. Thank God I'm from Colorado. I could do this all fucking day. Now you surfer motherfuckers are freezing in the snow on top of Mount Laguna, and I'm happy.
That's what I always tell people. They're like, "Let's go camping." I'm like, "I'm hard to kill on the ocean. I'm pretty fucking easy to kill when you get me in the mountains or go camping or something. That's a whole different
Yeah.
story. I'm a little easier target out there."
It's funny how we have our preferences as far as environments, and so, yeah, dude, when I was in 3rd phase, I was like, "Yeah, now you're in my world, man. I grew up like this. This is great."
Yeah. It's funny that you
Yeah.
said you were worried about being a pilot because of all the book smarts, right? And then you end up being a SEAL, which I'm assuming you
Yeah.
gotta be pretty damn smart to be a SEAL, right?
Well, and I didn't realize that you do. They looked at the enlisted corps and the SEAL teams, and I think they said like 70% have some college, 50% have degrees, and this is the enlisted corps.
Mhm.
So of any unit, it is like has the most college influence as far as the enlisted corps. And so it is, you realize, like when I got to my team eventually. So after buds, you graduate and you just get a little piece of paper, man. It's a little bit underwhelming. They
After
put
all
on a
that, and you're
nice
just like,
ceremony.
"Here you
It's
go."
it. You get a certificate. Hey, great. You're not a
Yeah.
SEAL. They do it a little bit different now, but in my day, we went to jump school, Army Airborne. We got our parachute wings, learned how to fall out of a plane. Then you come back to your team and you're on probation for 6 months. So they assign you to a department. They just watch you, make sure you show up on time, make sure you're working hard. I got put in the air department, so I worked in the parachute loft, learning to pack parachutes and sew up gear and all that stuff. And after that, you go to STT, SEAL Tactical Training, which is about 3.5 months, and it was harder than buds, but it was a gentleman's course. They weren't yelling at you. It simulates your first platoon workup, but what they were having you do was way more challenging than buds. It was all live fire. It was the real deal. The learning time was over. Now it's performance time. The odd part of that is now it's called SQT, and you take a test, everyone gets their trident there, then they go back to their teams or whatever. But in my day, after STT, you went back to your team And to get your trident, every team had a different process. Team 1 and team 3 had an oral board. So you went in the large classroom and you had to answer questions from every E7 and above in the command, and so they could ask you whatever. Well, the command master chief at team 5 decided he wanted to have a practical trident board. So there was 11 stations and you had 30 minutes at each station and 10 minutes in between, and it was all day. So, for example, you would go to the and you had it on a piece of paper what you were supposed to do, because I think there was 10 of us taking it. And so my first one, it might say medical. So I would go see, there was a thing set up on the beach and you had a casualty and you had to stabilize them and put an IV, and firemen's carry him down the beach. And you had to do anything that proctor said to do for 30 minutes. And it was either pass or fail. So you would go to equipment and you'd have to explain how you're fully kitted out, how your gear's set up. Next station, you go to commos, all the radios laid out, and the dude could ask you anything. You go to the weapons, all these weapons laid out. You'd have to disassemble, reassemble. It was very stressful. Every station was 30 minutes of whatever that proctor wanted to hit you up with, and it was thumbs up or thumbs down. And you had to pass all 11 stations. So it was pretty brutal. I was like, damn, the other guys, they have like a 45-minute interview, man, in the large classroom. Holy shit.
That'd be
So,
nerve-wracking, just a thumbs up, thumbs down like that.
ugh, yeah, it was. But well, I actually failed my first station, which was offset navigation. It was about diving. And so they give you a chart and they give you two problems you have to solve with, protractor and rulers. And because we always had to do like offset navigation because of currents. If we're going to insert here and dive to this ship, but the current's going this way, obviously we have to calculate, we have to kind of football into it.
Yeah,
And so there's these formulas you have to learn. Well, the proctor didn't have the tools there for me, the protractor, the ruler, whatever. And I said, "It says here on the sheet, those items will be provided by the proctor." So he was like, "Shit." So he had to run to the dive locker and find all this shit. He comes back. I have 15 minutes left to do two problems. And so I failed it. I was like, that's my first station. I have 10 more. So I just said, all right, just put this in a box over here. We'll address this later, because if I don't pass the next 10 stations, it doesn't matter that I failed the first one anyway. Because
yeah,
if you fail one station, you can retest it immediately that day. If you fail two, you're done. You have to do the whole board over again. So I
wow.
was like, dude, I got no alibis, man. I got to bang this out. And so I did. And then he admitted that he didn't provide me the tools. And so anyway, I did it in a large classroom, passed it, got pinned, and now officially you're a team guy. But at that point, from my first day of buds, I want to say it was like 21 months. So it's about a 2-year process, man, to get from your first day of buds to you actually get pinned officially is almost a 2-year process. So it's pretty grueling, man. Yeah.
Wow. What
I get
what
all stressed talking about it.
you're stressing me out, I wasn't even there.
Woo!
What life lessons, like I wrote that book, Hard to Kill, on lessons that I grew up on from, just all over the map. What lessons that you take and you still hold today did you learn out of that 21-month period?
The biggest one is believe in yourself, self-confidence. There's a way you can be humble, but you really have to really believe in yourself to achieve something. Even something small, but something, it's this big mountain that you're looking at like, well, I want to be a SEAL. So many people want to do that. So many people fail. It's almost, if you look at it mathematically, you're going to quit right there. Well, like, this is impossible. So the thing I learned is you have to believe in yourself. I just had this thing I had to do. I didn't know how to do it, but some of the things I learned when I was there is they said, "How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a
At
time."
the
And so
time, yeah,
they taught us to focus. For example, in buds, your day is packed with all kinds of crazy shit, but they taught us to focus on what you're doing right now. If you're swimming, don't worry that there's a 10-mile run after the swim or the obstacle course, or if you're eating chow, if you're eating lunch, just focus on that. Don't focus on, we psych ourselves out and we make our problems way bigger than they are. And so I learned to just focus on the task at hand. Don't worry about anything else. And when you're done with that, you move to the next task. So I became very task oriented. But the biggest thing looking back on all of it is you just got to believe in yourself, because I mean, most team guys I talked to had the same thing. Their parents thought they were crazy. Their friends thought they were crazy. A lot of people, will try to talk you out of it. And it's not that they're trying to harm you, but like my mom thought. They're a suicide squad. Why would you want your kid to do that, you know? And so you have to really harness this belief inside yourself like, "No, this is what I wanna do, and I'm gonna find a way to do it." And it's challenging. I mean, we all go through different things in life, but if you don't believe in yourself, man, and so then once you accomplish something pretty epic, the rest of your life is downhill because 'cause you're like, "Dude, I know I can do it if I put my mind to it. If I
Yeah.
really there's gonna be a lot of hard work, nothing's gonna just fall in your lap." I mean, you could catch a lucky break here or there, but overall, it's gonna be some miserable work. You're gonna have to grind and grind and grind and grind. But luckily, I learned that in my early 20s going through this buds process in getting to a team. It's so valuable. And I think the military is one of the few things in modern American society that can challenge you like that when you're young.
Hmm.
You know, when you go to college and you end up in corporate America, like it just, if you choose the right path in the military, it can really shape you in ways nothing else in our society can do. You know, one of the things they told us they were going to do is turn us into the human animal because we are animals, but we're a modern version of that. We're kind of weak in some areas, you know?
Or
And
tame.
so, well, it's just it's that adversity, and I mean, think of how our ancestors lived. You know, you had to build your own shelter and hunt your own food, and we don't do that anymore. So in the military, you get a big aspect of that. In martial arts, you get a big aspect of that. You know, the combat sports and combat arts. And so, if you don't seek out those challenges, and a lot of people don't, you know, it might seem normal to you when you're in because all your buddies are SEALs, but you don't know how rare that is or how small a portion of the population that is. You know, you and I doing martial arts, or we just all of our friends are jits buddies or whatever it is, but you don't realize that's such a small portion of the population. Like nobody at work does that that I work with. But when I'm in class, I just think, wow, look at how many people are doing this. This is great. You
Yeah.
know, it's when you choose something difficult, you don't realize how small that is as far as not that many people really seek out that type of adversity. So I learned to kind of consistently challenge myself and attack difficult tasks. And then I saw a lot of people I know in my life, they always choose the easy path. And I don't know why. They don't want to hike up that mountain and enjoy the view from the summit, man. It's way better, you know?
Yeah, that's what I tell my son all the time. He's only 10. I say, "Hey," he's like, "Well, let's do it this way." I said, "That's a shortcut. You don't ever take shortcut. You
Mm,
always choose the harder route." He says, "Why would I do that?" I said, "To challenge yourself. You'll feel better
yeah.
when you achieve it." So I forget what I was doing the other day, and I said, he says, "What are you doing?" I think I was driving, taking a shortcut. He says, "Dad, we don't take shortcuts." I'm like, "Damn it." Okay, he calls me out on it.
Damn.
But that's funny because
That's
I use
good.
the same
Yeah.
analogy of, how do you eat an elephant? Because
Yeah.
everything, whether it's jujitsu, life, any business, you could look at the end journey, right? You're like, "Damn, I'm never gonna be there. That's gonna take me 10 years to get a black belt. That's gonna be
Yeah.
it's gonna take me forever to make, whatever your X amount a month that you wanna." But if you look at it, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I just gotta stack these small little wins, and then
Yep.
finally look back and go, "Holy shit, that was a white belt for that one." Whatever your case is, it's like, man, you just
Yeah.
I love that you use that analogy because I use it a lot with everything that I do. It's like I could look at my whiteboard and go, "Holy shit, I'm never going to achieve that X, Y, Z." But if I just start knocking down one, number two,
Yeah.
three, like
Yeah.
that's great that you did that or that you
Well,
said,
it trickles into your personal life. That just becomes your operating system. And so, yeah, you task by task. And before you know it, like, wow, I mean, I do that on my weekends. I lay my weekends out. Like, what am I going to do? And then I think, damn, that was, you know, when I'm rolling into work Monday, I'm like, damn, I had a good weekend. I did this and this and this and this,
yeah,
you know, and it's so many people just kind of, they don't have a plan. You know, we used to say, plan your dive, dive your plan.
yeah.
So it's just, I learned very early on to define your goals, plan backwards, and then just bang out those tasks. Like you said, you just put up little wins, and before you know it, shit, that wasn't that bad, you know?
To me, half the fun is writing that check mark next to a cheat. I did it. Okay,
Yeah,
to-do list. Boom. I'm like, yeah, that X felt good. I like doing that.
yeah, it does.
Yeah. That's what people need to do. It's like, I don't know, I'm not a coach in business at all, but it's like just, have a goal. Like I have well, I'm in mastermind groups for entrepreneurial stuff and I try to do what they say. And it's like I'm looking at my whiteboard right now. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I got a lot. But then I go up there with my little red pen, Nick,
Yeah,
oh, that one, and that one feels so good. So it's like
yeah,
you said with jujitsu, it's like technique, like right? It's like you're getting stomped, you're the hammer or you're the nail then you make
Yep.
that one small adjustment, boom, and then everything changes. You're like, holy shit! Now I'm not letting this guy tap me, or maybe I'm tapping this guy up by just making that
Yeah.
small little
Isn't that
adjustment.
crazy? One little thing, and you're just
You
like,
think, how the hell did I
I've
not think
been
of that before?
yeah, it's usually something so obvious, like, dude, and you've been struggling like maybe 3 months with this thing, and somebody says, "Hey, try this," and you're like, it just blows your mind, like,
Yeah.
"What?
Yeah, and then you get
That?"
kinda you gotta kick yourself in the ass, you're like, "What the" like, you look at it and you're like, "Of course I should have done that," but then like you said, 3 to 6 months on the same damn thing, you're like, "Damn it."
Just struggling, and someone's like, "Here's the key, bro," and you're like, "Beep, oh."
Yep, yep, and then we just keep going back for more, and then we have a new
Yeah.
3-month problem, and then we have another one, it's
Yeah, it's just
yeah,
brick by brick. I love it, I
yep,
love that whole process, and it does remind me, I joke to myself, I know I'm older, I'm 50 now, but I'm like, "Dude, an hour of jujitsu feels like a day of buds, dude." I mean, it's you come out of there just like, "Fuck," but it has that same reward. When I would complete a day of buds, that was my
yeah,
check, like, I did another day, and that momentum builds, and so I get that same satisfaction with jujitsu, every class, and I'm like, "All right, I still got 10 fingers, 10 toes, nothing's broken, we're good, I survived another one," but I
yeah.
feel like $1,000,000 walking out of that studio drenched in sweat. Just that one little boop, there's another day,
There's
and I don't
sometimes
even
I
think about the journey. I know it's a 10-year journey, but I did
yeah.
another day. Beep.
There's sometimes I drive and it's just like mind fucking myself. Is today the day I break something or I get hurt?
Ah,
Driving home
dude.
going, "Fuck, why did I even have that negative thought?"
Yeah.
I mean, it's
I
there.
just say if it happens, fuck it.
Yeah, I've been busted up here and there, but it's like we just keep going back for more because it's addicting. Like,
Yeah.
I tell people about the gym, it's like, if you're not wanting to go or whatever reason, there's never one time I walked out of jiu-jitsu and go, "Oh, I'm bummed I came to class today." It's like, fuck no.
Never.
Open
Never.
mat, doesn't matter. It's like I'm
No.
always walking out of there going, "Fucking so glad," whether it's a 2-hour class or whatever I did, I've never
Yep.
walked out of jiu-jitsu going we always are getting our ass kicked, and I still am like, "Love coming, glad I did it."
Yeah.
Never a regret that that I went
No.
to.
Nope. You just gotta show up, and it's when I first started, I heard a weird stat, and it said that only 10% of people that start get their blue belt. And I was
Mhm.
like, that's crazy. What? That doesn't make sense. And then I saw it. I saw when I signed up and, the fundamentals class, it's a sea of white belts. And then you just start noticing certain people aren't there. They just kind of reminded me of buds. Like it does dwindle down
Yeah.
to when you get your blue belt, you realize, dude, there's only like 3 of us from this little
Yeah.
army of white belts that started out. It's really crazy, and I
The
think
the blue
it's what
belt
you just
curse,
said.
right?
Well, you just gotta show up, though.
Yeah,
I don't know why, and listen, I get it. For some people, it's just not for them, or it didn't hit them the right way, or I don't know what it is, but I mean, there's also the curse of the people that get their blue belt and quit. And I'm like, why would you stop the journey right there, dude?
yeah,
Like now there's some tangible progress. Like, why wouldn't you want more? Like,
yeah. I
but
don't get that
I've
mentality of
always,
achieving a blue belt and then not, "Well, I'm good enough, I'm done." I'm like, I don't
I
understand
don't
people.
know. Like to
Yeah,
me, it's just a sample. Like, why wouldn't you want more of this awesome magic? Why would you just say, okay, yeah, good enough, man?
yeah,
What? You're still
yeah,
at the beginning, like, keep going. I don't know, but I've because you always see memes about that, about getting your blue belt and quitting, and now I see that. Like, I've seen, like, we have a couple I won't mention names, but a couple of my other buddies, we talk about, "Hey, where's so and so? We haven't seen him in a while," and it's just I don't know. I mean, I get it. It's not for everyone, but I keep thirsting for more and more of this journey because it's a lot of parallels to my military journey.
yeah.
It's kind of like you open a door, you go in a room, and there's 3 more doors, and you're like, "Ooh, this is exciting." You open
Well,
that door, and
I'll ask you what's the relation because, my Army Ranger, he is a purple belt, Mark Turner I just had on, obviously black belt, 3rd degree black belt. I do
Mhm.
see a lot of jujitsu or a lot of ex-military transitioning into jujitsu. So maybe you could talk on that topic of like, what are the parallels? Like, what I mean, talk about it. Like, what do you see?
well, it's kind of funny because all my buddies were into jujitsu for a long time, but I was such a gun guy. I loved especially handgun stuff. That was my bread and butter. I had just kind of an odd path we can get into later of why I fell in love with handgun, but handgun was my jam. Like I just love teaching people handgun and whatever. And so a lot of my buddies were getting into it, and I was like, I don't know why. I didn't get close to it. I just really I wanted to be at such a level with a handgun that I just focused that was going to be my thing, that I was better than everybody else at. Um, and even when I was a firearms instructor in Texas, I had a buddy that was a purple belt, and in our neighborhood there was a little studio, and so he said, "Dude, just come to class with me once. I think you're gonna like it." And so I did, and I think I just jumped into the wrong class, dude, because it had to be an advanced class, dude. They were doing some like reverse De La Riva, fucking inverted shit, and I was like, for your first day, I was like,
First
what? It
day.
was, yeah, it was so confusing. Nobody like brought me to the side and said, "Okay, buddy, like this is side control," or you know what I mean? It was just this spinny under the leg shit, and I said, this just confirms my suspicions. This shit's too crazy. It's too complicated. So I wasn't introduced to it properly. My buddy was all excited. What did you think? And I said, that was fucking horrible, dude. I had no idea what. And then it was just like, okay, everybody spar. I didn't know anything. I wasn't a wrestler. I was just like, this is really stupid. So my first introduction to it was really horrible. It kind of spooked me away. But moving to California in the very strict firearms laws, I all my guns are fucking not okay here, so I have them disassembled sitting in the house, you know? And so I thought, well, the gun culture is really dorky here, and then a little light bulb went off, and I said, "Hey, maybe it's time to reengage jujitsu." You know, I mean, I wanna stay sharp as a warrior somehow.
Yeah.
I've done firearms for 25 years of my life. I know it's perishable, but I'll always be able to function at some level. Let's focus with some type of, martial art. Again, I did karate, loved it as a kid. And so I said, all right, jits is the new thing for sure. And I did a little research. There were two academies near me. And I called a buddy who's an MMA guy in Denver. And I said, hey, are these like legit places, man? Because I don't want to just show up to some McDojo place and, study some weird shit, I don't know. Yeah, right? Learning some chi or so,
Yeah, you're
whatever.
tied up like a pretzel by some guy doing the Vader.
Yeah, I'd be all excited, "Hey, man, I'm a black belt in this weird art." Like, okay.
Wow.
So I made sure I was doing the right thing because I know what I don't know, and so the 2 places that were nearby, they were both giving the thumbs up, and so I chose the Gracie Baja nearby, and, just fell in love with it first day, dude. Just dove right in, and so it reminded me of the military instantly because I saw the camaraderie. I saw, it reminded me of in your platoon, dude. We love each other so much. It's almost borderline inappropriate in the SEAL teams, it's
Yeah.
questionable. But I felt that same type of vibe, that same type of love there at the studio. I mean, instantly the professors are a husband and wife couple. She's from Brazil, he's from Hungary. um, Super nice. They introduced it to me right. They got some brown belt dude to kind of get me geared up and how you tie your belt. And then he brought me to the side and showed me a couple things. And then kind of sparred with me, but obviously super gently and whatever. And so I felt it. It clicked at that moment. And so I just kept coming back, kept coming back, kept coming back. And I already knew, everyone, "Oh, man, it takes 10 years to get a black belt," and I'm like, "That's cool." I mean, I kinda like that I mean, it's not easy to get a trident, you know what I mean? Like, they don't just hand those out in boot camp. At
Yeah.
least they used to not. I don't maybe nowadays they do, but times are changing, bro.
You do a
But,
TikTok dance, you get your trident.
yeah, it could, yeah, maybe there's an online course these days,
Yeah.
So I love that challenge of that. I like that it's not other martial arts, you can get a black belt in 3 years, it's kinda it's the jujitsu process, as you know, it's like a legit buds, you know what I mean? It's you show up and you grind away. So I always dork out on any given topic. If I'm passionate about handgun, I mean, I try to learn everything about everything. So I did the same thing with jujitsu. I started training here at Gracie Baja, but then I bought the Gracie University 32 principles. Like
Mhm.
I wanted to watch videos. I wanted to academically understand. And now through BJJ Fanatics, I've spent probably $1,000 on John Donaher videos because I want to know. I want to absorb. And
Sponge.
so, well, and so the days I don't train physically, I have classroom days, So every day I'm absorbing jujitsu and taking notes. I got my submission master little dummy upstairs. I can go thrash around a little bit, and that
Yeah.
way I'm prepared for the next class. I'm ready to go. And so it's that same passion I had in the military. Any topic I was given, any school I went to, I just dove all in. And so I think that's why it appeals to military guys, is because one, it's this elephant that you got to eat, right? One bite at a time. It's not easy to get a black belt. So just like I did in the military, I said, well, I don't I don't know where this is going to end, but I do know I enjoy it, and I'll do it as long as I can for as old as I am. And I'm just one bite at a time. That thirst for knowledge, that the camaraderie is a big one. I mean, when you go into the studio, dude, everyone's so happy to see you, dude. It's just right away. It's love. I mean, everyone's fist bumping, hugging. It's because you bond through adversity. I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest parallel, is when you go through buds and you go through Hell Week, you've literally been to hell and back with a group of dudes. We started with 174, we graduated 39 originals.
Wow.
Those 39 are tight. Well, it's the same attrition rate in jiu-jitsu, right? So
Yeah.
those of us white belts that started, that got our blue belts together, maybe there's 4 of us left out of 50, or you know what I mean? Whatever it is. And so now that those are your bros, we got our belts together. Yeah. And you're
Yeah.
so happy. And it's that war of attrition, but you're still there. You're getting better. As you develop in the military, your skill sets get better. And it's the same in jujitsu. Now you're not just getting crushed all the time. You're still the nail sometimes, but hey, once a week I'm the hammer, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So very similar in the growth process of it, man. And I like that it's not just handed to you on a silver platter. Like, it's earned, man. I remember when I got my first stripe on my white belt, I joked and I said, I've never, how did I put it? I've never worked so hard for so little. Like, you just get crushed for months and then finally
Yeah.
get a little piece of tape and you're like, yes, like, oh, it's just this little piece of tape. You know what I had to do for this little piece of tape?
And then
Holy
you go the back
shit.
then you go back the next day and start it all over again, and then get that
Yeah,
little
yeah.
piece. Yeah. People don't get it though that aren't into jujitsu. Like, I got guys, I'm 48, and they're like, I go to the barbecue and I'm a little beat up or whatever, and they're like, "Why are you still doing it?" 'Cause I love
Yeah,
it. Like, I
yeah,
couldn't imagine life without, like, my son's 10, and he's, banged up here and there, and I go, "It's the life we chose, buddy. We're always gonna
yeah,
be banged up. We're always gonna be something. Something's
yeah,
not gonna straighten out or something, it's just the life we chose." That's You could either be, sit on the couch and watch football for 10 hours, or you can go to
yeah,
a match. You can do things and test yourself. And I said, "That's the life, whether I'm sore from the gym,
yep,
surfing or whatever, we're gonna get banged up, and that's a much better life that I'd rather live than the alternative, I think."
for sure. Well, that's where the growth comes from, through those challenges, through those adversities, through, those sufferings and the pain and the training through injuries and all that. But that's that mental fortitude piece that I think in today's society, so many people run away from that. They just hover over their phones and scroll endlessly on social media. And I'm glad. That's why I really like your page, because I could see as a dad, you're guiding your young trooper through the world, through challenges and adventures. And I just don't think many people do that anymore. And so I tried to do the same thing with my kids. The deal was with my daughter, she was born in Thailand and she came back here to finish high school. And her and I were going to start jujitsu together, but she got cold feet. And I said, all right, whatever. I'm still going to do it, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but we watched the latest season of Cobra Kai and she got all excited. And I was like, hey, it ain't like this. Let me tell you. I know you think it's gonna be some cool teenage, TV drama movie experience, but she said, I want to go. Because at that point I had done it for about 6 months.
Yeah.
And so I said, all right, I'll take you to your free trial class. And I wasn't sure how she was gonna enjoy it because she didn't do anything athletic growing up in Thailand. She was just, kind of a nerd, just in school and doing what normal people do. So she took her class, and when it was done, I said, "What did you think?" And she goes, "I love it." And
Nice.
she got into it, man. It was she ended up getting her blue belt, and she could learn. Her ability to learn was amazing. I mean, it was like I said, I have to dork out on Donna videos for 12 hours a day, and then I still can't remember shit.
Yeah.
She picks up everything, and we go upstairs and spar and play with stuff. And she ended up going back to Thailand for college purposes, but man, I wanted to see her flourish, man. She was, it was amazing to watch her growth from nothing physical in her childhood to really the first thing she's done is jujitsu and then just blossom the
Yeah,
confidence. It's so amazing for kids to be involved in a martial art. It gets just to see the difference. If I showed you a before and after picture, completely different person, and a big portion of that was going to jujitsu, and then also getting her out of the comfort zone of, "Hey, I want you to do a no-gi class with me. I want you to go to the males classes because you're probably not gonna get attacked on the street by another 130-pound chick.
yeah,
Probably gonna be a dude, maybe in a college dorm, so you need a sweaty 200-pound dude wrestling around because then that way, if it happens, it's not the first scenario that you're in where, oh my God, my jujitsu's not working. Well, because it's not going to work the same is the equivalent of you. You need to wrestle with me, wrestle with other people. Stop even just wrestling with me because I'm your dad. There's some comfort there. You need to wrestle with some of the guys in class. I know it's awkward, but once you get past that, it's going to set you up for a real scenario that I hope never happens. But if it does, at least it's not uncharted waters. And so I was proud that I sent her back into the world with at least that little nugget. And
yeah.
maybe someday it'll get her out of a bad situation, you know?
That's what I tell people, and they think it's kinda like the people who are in the jiu-jitsu and the fighting world get it. I say, "You gotta go to a controlled environment and either spar, get hit in the face, or have a 200-pound guy on you and know how to fight out of it. Because you don't wanna be on the street for the very first time, a conflict happens. You can't go, "Oh, wait, I've never had start can we restart this, or can I get a weapon out?
Yeah.
Can we do" shit's gonna hit the
Mhm.
fan, it's gonna happen quick, and if you realize that you don't wanna get nobody wants to get hit in the face, but if how you react, if you curl up in a fetal position, you
Yeah.
gotta know how it's gonna feel, and so I tell people a lot, and in that book, I have a chapter about it, is like, go to a controlled environment, get hit, spar. That way, if you have a bad reaction, you're in a nurturing spot that they're gonna be like, "Hey, it's okay. It's not as bad as you think it is. Let's keep going."
Yeah.
Right? They can kinda talk you through it, but if you're on the street, never been hit, and then you realize, if you're at the ATM and you get clocked and you have a bad reaction, it's like, then that shit's really gonna turn out bad for you, so, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad your daughter got into it, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's good. Well, yeah, you don't want it that shock factor to be the first time in a real world scenario. You know,
Yeah,
in fact, that was one of the things our instructors told us in Buds is we want training to be 10 times harder than combat so that when you see combat for the first time, you're disappointed.
yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's pretty legit. And they were spot on, dude. The first time you're getting shot at, it's almost unreal. You're like, is this, I mean, depending on the scenario, I mean, there's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
difference between my experiences in like Black Hawk Down or Normandy. I mean, it's all in perspective.
yeah,
But for the most part, they did a good job preparing us. So, like jujitsu, I feel prepared enough, depending on the scenario. Now, if I happen to pick a fight with Conor McGregor, maybe it won't end up so well. But and thank God I'm old enough now. I'm not in bars looking for trouble. But if something happens, I've been smashed enough in class that I'm pretty comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's another parallel:
yeah,
being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
yeah,
And so I think that's huge because you see a lot of these videos of people just getting smacked, and you can tell they've never been smacked before because it just hits their off button. They don't know what to do.
mhm,
So through this type of training, you really do learn to work through it. It's going to be okay, and think on your feet. The thing I love about jujitsu is that it is human chess. Like you can have a plan, but it's gonna go to shit when dude does this or that, or all of a sudden he's on your back. You're like, oh shit, how'd that happen?
yeah.
Especially those fast fuckers, man. As you get old, it's hard to keep up those spinny, inverted, fast dudes. And it's like, well, I just want to grab them and keep them in one place, man.
Well, I've never been quick, so I just got called the other day a slow assassin. I'm like, "Call me whatever you want." I'm not
That's
because
right.
we roll with the young kids, right? They're jumping and doing
Yeah.
once I get you, I'm gonna get you
Yeah.
and get top control and, yeah.
Get that
But,
grandpa strength and put some pressure on it.
yeah, I'll hold people down, and they're like, "Well," I had a guy tell me the other day too, he goes, "Man," he was a younger guy, and we started standing up, and he goes, "Wow, you're bigger and stronger than I thought you were." I'm like, "Well, you thought you were gonna have an easy roll or something?" Because
That's
at
it.
open match, you get all these different people, right? And so it's kinda you're just, like, looking at I rolled with a guy, he was a blue belt, but his ears were completely rolled up. I said, "Oh, are you a
Uh,
wrestler?" He says, "No." I said, "How you a blue" I did what I wanted to do with him, but it's like, "How are your ears folded over and you're a blue belt?" Like, you just
yeah.
completely on getting pounded? Like, I don't understand it, but
Getting smashed.
right? But, yeah, we jiu-jitsu, I had that, but I also wanna talk to your time about police officer because after your military career, you were, in the I'll start also I usually run around an hour to respect the time. Do you are you okay with keep going?
No, yeah, I'm good. Absolutely, man.
Okay. Um, but yeah, jiu-jitsu, we can like I told Mark, I said, "We could talk jiu-jitsu for 3 hours because once you get 2 jiu-jitsu guys going,
Oh,
if
dude,
somebody's
yeah.
listening to this and they're like, "Oh, I don't get jiu-jitsu," then sorry about that, we can keep going. We'll go on to a different topic, but so after your military career, you went, into the Phoenix Police Department, right? And
Well, yeah, I went private contracting for a while, bounced around doing diplomatic security
mhm,
around the Middle East and stuff, and I got tired of deploying. You know, I had an epiphany. I ended up in Iraq in '07, and I realized my first deployment was 1996, and now it's 2007 in Iraq, and I just it sounds weird, but I thought, holy shit, my kids are now teenagers.
yeah,
This is crazy. Like, what if something happens to me? They'll never really remember who I was because the last time I saw my oldest son and daughter, they're probably 4 or 5 years old. So they might have some faded memories of me. And so I just knew um, that I just had to stop this overseas stuff, man. You know, I did 2 pumps with the Navy, I did 8 pumps as a contractor, and it was just getting wild, man. Every deployment was as a contractor, there's no support, there's no assets that the military has. Like you're out there flapping, man. And so in fact, today is the 20th anniversary of when 3 of my teammates got killed in the Gaza Strip, October
really,
15th, 2003. Yeah, it's
wow,
crazy. And it baffling me that it's been 20 years. So I'm very grateful, dude, that I've had 20 years. Could have very easily been of any of us in that scenario. Gaza is very dangerous. And that was a shock. That was the first time that I sent home boxes. And that was a tough period of my life. And so the contracting was pretty wild. And I smoked through a couple marriages. I had, the Navy kinda killed my first marriage, and I had 2 kids. Then I had, my Thai daughter with a Thai lady, but contracting killed that. She was born 3 weeks after this Gaza attack, and my wife at the time just laid down an ultimatum, said, "If you go back to Israel, we're done." Like, I didn't sign up for this stuff. This is crazy.
yeah,
And my argument was, "I don't know what else to do. It's gonna take time to rewire myself." Anyway, I came off that next rotation. We divorced, and I met my current wife almost immediately, friend of a friend. Now we've been together almost 20 years, but I knew I couldn't drag her into the same situation that 2 other failed marriages had fallen apart in. So, '07, I decided to leave. I'm going to marry my current wife. You know, she was my girlfriend at the time, and I was going to come back to the States and re-engage with my 2 oldest kids. What am I going to do for work? Well, my wife said, "Well, you're good with a uniform. Why don't you be a cop? It's pretty similar to being a soldier." And I thought, I never thought of that. I'm kind of a gnarly dude to be a cop. I mean, I don't know. I have more in common with a Hell's Angel than I do a cop, you know? So I flew back to Colorado in '07. My wife was waiting for all the paperwork to clear at the embassy and stuff. A lot of paperwork to get a wife over here. So I'm with at my mom's house in Colorado and I'm searching around the internet and no one's really hiring in Colorado, but in Phoenix, there was a big hiring. Like their website said, like now hiring 500 dudes or whatever it is. And my brother lived in Phoenix. And so I thought, hey, maybe Phoenix is the place. And so I hopped in my Jeep. I went down there and I passed the written and the physical and got put into the Phoenix PD pipeline. Ended up getting a slot in their academy in 2008. And that was kind of a funny period of my life because the year prior I was in Baghdad, Iraq, doing some crazy shit. And now I'm making 18 bucks an hour as a police recruit at the Arizona Law Enforcement Academy. And so I almost felt like I was trapped in some Polly Shore movie or something. Like I just like how am I in a police academy? I'm 35 years old. I have 10 overseas trips. And it was weird too, because obviously they know your background. And so I thought, well, how's the cadre gonna react to this? Now, the good thing is, even if there's some preconceived ideas, I'm always a mellow, humble dude or whatever. And so I always got along with everybody. But there was this one lieutenant, the lieutenant in charge of training there, that I think he was prior military, but man, he did not like me, dude. He was always hemming me up for being a team guy. And anyway, we befriended each other about halfway through the police academy, and so things were good. But it just, I could tell people, I felt like kind of a freak, to be honest. I had tats everywhere. Phoenix didn't have a tattoo policy. Um,
And
but
you're
just
in
being
and you're in with, like, a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-old guys?
well, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, you have to be 21
Mm,
in Arizona. So, but still young. I'm 35,
yeah.
and just kind of a hairy tatted dude. It's almost like the cops infiltrate the Hell's Angel. There was like a biker infiltrating the police academy. That's how I felt. Like,
Reverse.
yeah, it was a reverse, like, undercover operation. Like, I mean, no one in the academy looked or acted like me. It was kind of weird, dude. But I
May
made the best of it.
maybe they did think the Hells Angels was trying to infiltrate the
That's that lieutenant was sniffing me out like, "Bro, where's your motorcycle at?" Like, "I don't ride a bike, I swear to God."
police.
But I would just because I knew, like, for a lot of the young guys, like, this was their buds experience. This was these guys had dreamt to be police officers, and not to disrespect the profession, but this was kind of my plan B. Like, how am I going to reinvent myself? And I have enough respect for it that, okay, yeah, law enforcement. Again, I like to be the protector, the sheepdog, the defenseman. And so I thought, I can do this now. Now that I'm 35, I got a lot of wild shit out of my system. The whole time I was contracting, I was living in Thailand, and we were partying like Black Sabbath and Motley Crue had a baby. I mean, it was very wild in those days. I'm glad it was before, like, smartphones and shit were out.
There's no
For sure.
documentation of it.
No, no. Once in a while, a random picture will surface. I'm not going to run for office anytime soon, but I'm glad 99% of it was undocumented for sure.
Yeah.
But it helped rewire me, dude. Also, as a contractor, most of my time was with diplomatic security services, doing mobile security for diplomats. So I kind of went from a wild team guy, and it stepped down to be a contractor, and then it stepped down being a cop. And so the police academy really helped kind of domesticate me, rewire me so that I was more user friendly, not so wild.
Mhm.
And so I'm grateful for that process. I really did enjoy the academy, especially defensive tactics. That was actually probably the first time I was somewhat introduced into jiu-jitsu. They taught us rear naked choke and some other control positions for arresting people on the street and stuff. And they encouraged us. I guess there's the Lions Den in Tempe, Arizona, is a pretty famous like MMA gym or something. But to be honest, dude, when you're done working the streets as a cop, dude, I just wanted to go camping, dude. I didn't want to go train, or I was so wiped out. Um, I eventually graduated the academy, and I chose a precinct in South Phoenix that was very tough, South Mountain Precinct. And for the first 2 years, it was really wild, man. I felt like I was trapped in an episode of Cops. Like, it was car chases, foot chases, I mean, shootings popping off on the radio. They did a drive-by on my precinct. I was in the back cross-loading my gear from my patrol car to my personal vehicle, and I just heard pop, 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 pop. I was like, holy fuck, I thought I was back in Baghdad, dude. Like, what? Cars are ripping out of the parking lot. I hop back in my car with no gear whatsoever. Just, the Congo line ripping out of the gate. Guy got away, but I remember coming back to the precinct, just seeing bullet holes all over the front. Like,
Where's this,
dude, this
Tempe?
is no, a Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
South Mountain Precinct in
Hmm.
Phoenix. So anything south of downtown, for the listeners in Phoenix, stay away from it. From downtown down to South Mountain is just it's a different place for
Wow.
sure. Stay north of downtown, pretty much you'll be all right. Closer you are to Scottsdale, the better.
Wow.
So it was legit, man. I thought, wow, I always tell people, what I didn't see as a SEAL, I saw as a contractor, and what I didn't see as a contractor, I saw as a cop. It was a very layered experience, and it's kind of neat how my life kind of slowly forged me into these unique situations I've been in. So by the time I was a cop, I was 35, and it was intense, man. I never Every time you go outside the gates, it's different. It's the unknown. Now, when you go outside the gates in Iraq, the shit's going to happen, but you got like 20, 30 of you. You got belt fed weapons, you got shoulder fired rockets, you got grenades. As a cop, sometimes you're by yourself and all you have is a Glock, and you're in gangland, dude. So you got to be careful at stoplights. You can't use the bathroom at like the Quick Trip. I mean, there's been fights and stabbings and shooting. I mean, it's just it's kind of a paranoia because you're really outnumbered and it's just the unknown. So it was a new environment to adapt to,
Mhm.
and I enjoyed it for a long time. I ended up getting recruited by some undercover guys in the locker room. It was a little bit of like a creepy movie scene. You know, this dude comes up to me and he's got long hair and scruffy face, and he's like, "Hey, bro, you ever thought of doing some plain clothes work?" And I was like, "Nah, I want to be on the SWAT team, you know?" And he's like, "That's cool, but you have to be on patrol for 3 years to just test for SWAT. But I could get you on temporary assignment with us. Your tattoos, the way you act, you know, you don't look and act like a cop. Why don't you try the undercover world?" And so I did. He was friends with my patrol sergeant. And so my boss said, "Yeah, dude, go hang out with those guys for a couple weeks." So I was with those guys. My third day, I get in a shooting on a drug deal. And
Doing
yeah,
undercover work?
yeah. And I was on temporary assignment. I wasn't even a part of the unit. I was just riding dirty with them. Ended up getting in a shooting, and it was funny because when it went down, the SWAT team showed up, secured the scene. It was an active scene for about 3 hours, and the union shits you a lawyer right away, and so they bring you away from the scene. It was still an active scene, so they had like this kind of a camping van that they put you in. It had snacks in the bathroom, and the lawyer shows up, and you have to do a walkthrough with homicide. Once the scene was secure, they want you to go back and explain what happened. And I remember talking to the homicide detective, and before we went on tape and walked the scene, he was like, "How long have you been with Phoenix PD?" I said, "About a year and a half." And he goes, "A year and a half and you're already playing clothes?" I said, "Oh, no, I'm not on the X-ray squad. I'm on a temporary assignment. I'm on a temp." And he goes, "You're on it." He goes, "How long have you been on your temp for?" I said, "This is day 3." And he was like, "Holy shit." Holy shit. He goes, "You're off to a good start, man." He was real cool, real crusty dude, like
Uh,
detective of like 27 years. So we did the walkthrough, and then I had to go to internal affairs, and everything panned out okay. But it just showed me how dangerous that line of work was. So I eventually tested and got a full-time slot on the X-ray squad, 46 X-ray. And I loved it, dude. It was your creativity. Whatever the team leader, I nicknamed him Gas Pedal Bobby, whatever he kind of wanted to do or we wanted to do, our boss was cool. Like, just go out and do your thing. And so it was this whole new weird world of freedom, man. It was a lot of creativity. The problem is we had manpower issues. We were about 500 officers short, and so the new police chief rolls in, and he's going to put some specialty squads back in uniform because end of the day, someone calls 911, someone's got to show up. So we have to cut off some of these bells and whistles. And I thought, there's no way they're going to cut the 46 X-ray. Like we put too many numbers up on the scoreboard. But sure as shit, they did. So
the
they
whole
they
team? Like,
they yeah, they cut our whole squad. We had to go back into uniform, and that was kind of the beginning of the end because you can't show me how the other half lives, bro. And then now
like
I'm
that?
back to
Yeah.
taking shoplifting reports and working fucked up hours, and so it kind of tainted it. I kind of knew. I was like, I need to find a new passion. I started to get the firearms trainer bug because a lot of cops have trouble passing the annual qual. So my phone would blow up. It's like, "Hey, dude, could you meet me at the academy and show me a couple things?" So I would show up there. We could check out some ammo and do some shooting. And I realized that most people just needed a little 2 or 3 little changes, and then they were killing it. Like, it's not that hard, dude. Just do this, do this. And so I thought, man, I can really rehab shoot people. I like to take people that already know how to shoot, but they're not very good at it, just
Mhm.
do some fine tuning, and now they're killing it. And I really got satisfaction watching those light bulb moments. And so I decided that I was going to leave the police department and get into firearms training. And that's kind of what I transitioned out to after 8 years. Like I said, I got thrown back in patrol. It was really hard to go anywhere, a specialty squad because of staffing issues. And so I thought, yeah, politics started seeping in. I was a cop from '08 to 16. And so every briefing was 10 more things you can't say, 10 more things you can't do. They made foot pursuits out of policy. I'm like, you can't even chase people on foot like that. Well, now we're just secretaries with Glocks. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
This is not the episode of Cops anymore. Like, my first 2 years was wild. I mean, there could be a whole episode on those stories. But I decided I'm getting satisfaction out of teaching people how to shoot. I love to shoot, and I got to train with a lot of amazing people overseas, and so my handgun game especially was really good. So I thought, this is my gift. This is what I want to share with the world. I'm going to go do it. And I did it for about 3 years. Really enjoyed it. As a firearms instructor, I trained civilians, cops, and active duty military. Um, but there's just not steady money into it. You get a group here, a group there, or tier one group out of Memphis would bring me in for a 4 week course, but then I might not hear from them for 2 months. And so then I have to kind of kick up my own personal stuff and ended up falling into the trade I'm in now, which is utilities. I had a Navy buddy, a Team 5 buddy of mine, who called me up and said, "Hey, I heard you're looking for work." And he's a pretty gnarly dude, man. He's twice my size and twice as crazy. And so I thought, I don't know if I want to do anything that he's going to want to do because he's a pretty wild dude, right? So I said, "Well, what are you doing?" He goes, "Safety." And I was like, "What? Like security?" He goes, "No, safety, dude. I'm a safety guy." I'm like, "What? What's a safety guy? And why are you a safety guy? Never seen you do anything safe in your life, dude." So he said, "Man, I'll just watch guys on utility poles, man. You take some pictures, make sure they're wearing hard hats and shit. It's really laid back." And I'm like, "That's a job?" So he gave me a point of contact. I flew
I
to
wasn't
Cami.
expecting that.
No, dude, it was like just all of a sudden a sharp right turn in my path. I was like, "What safety? What do we know about safety, dude? All we've done is really messed up stuff our whole lives." But so the owner of this construction company has a soft spot for veterans. He's a very patriotic dude, awesome guy. And nobody really wants to be the safety guy because you're kind of, I don't know, safety guys are either retired, crusty old construction workers like the Clint Eastwood types who just bark at people, or
Mhm.
they're dorks from headquarters. They're like your little corporate weasels or whatever. But he found a niche that military veterans make good safety guys because they have the confidence and training of the military, so they're going to show up on time and work hard. But the crews respect you because the crews are all very patriotic Americans, and once they learn your military background, like it just jives real well.
Mhm.
And so he kind of found this little secret niche, that yeah, I want to be a safety guy because if I'm not, I'm going to be in Mogadishu, rolling dirty, you know, doing some type of shady security work. And
Yeah.
so it's not glamorous, but dude, I'm out in the woods every day, man. All these utility crews, there's poles everywhere. So I'm out in the Sierras and just make friends with farm animals and looking for Bigfoot, whatever. Dude, I hop in my work truck. I'm in a different place every day. It allows me to stay consistent in the gym. It allows me to train jits 4 days a week. Because it's the first job I've had that's not physical or hands on. So it's a little weird, but being 50 years old, if I'm gonna hurt myself, I'd rather do it on my own time, in jits or at the gym, so
I think you dodged
it's
enough
been
bullets with your other careers that this one sounds like a lot more
it is.
going on
Well,
and
and the owner said, "My concern is that you're gonna be bored," and I told him, I said, "I wanna be bored, I'm ready, I'm okay with that, I have seen everything that I thought I wanted to see as a young dude, like, I want some normalcy, I wanna come home." It really allowed me to prioritize my family.
I was gonna
The
say, I bet your wife
downside
probably liked it more too, right?
well, and I got custody of my daughter from Thailand, so she moved back in when she was 17, and so I was able to be a super dad, a super husband. The downside to my story, a lot of the stuff we talked about, is all those things were the priority. In order to graduate buds, that's your priority. Family second. They say you can be a good team guy, you can be a good family man, but you can't do both. It's impossible. It's why it's like a 99% divorce rate in the teams. And so I sacrificed my family as a priority for all those years, even as a cop. It was always about training and the job. But now that I'm doing safety dude stuff, my priority is my family. It's my marriage, it's my kids. Um, I don't drink anymore. I just focus on training and work and family being first. I've re-engaged my faith, so I don't work Saturdays very often anymore. And so my mom raised me in the church. So I've kind of come back to that looking for some answers. And so everything's kind of connected. My spirituality, where I'm at in life, is very good with martial arts, the gym, family, my faith, all that stuff is finally kinda it took me a while, but, by the time I'm 50, I kinda unfucked myself, so
Well, hey,
it
we're not
ended up
learning,
alright.
we're not trying, right? I'm 48,
Yeah,
you're 50. I learn new shit
yeah,
every day, right?
yeah, yeah, for
Especially
sure, and
especially in jiu-jitsu, right?
yeah, you do. Well, and the older you get, it's funny, the more you realize you don't know, and I'm comfortable with that, like just going into the world of jiu-jitsu, I realized, holy shit, man. Every guy kind of has that ego, like, yeah, I can handle myself, bro. But like you said in the beginning, not against a trained person. That
Yeah.
tough guy shit might work on another untrained person, but boy, you got some dude that knows what he's doing. Like you just get dumped real quick. And so I realized, okay, there's a big weakness in my game. I need to I need to
I
figure this out. So
I always tell the story because I got into, fighting MMA altogether by me and my buddy were boxing. I busted him up, and so the manager at his claim jumper out here in California said, "Why can't you do this?" And he says, "Oh, I hurt my ribs boxing my buddy." He says, "You want to come fight? Come to mine." It was like an underground fight club. He just had keys
oh,
to a principal or a high school gym, and we would go in there. And he was a judo guy, so he had Olympian judo guys come in. He had Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys, and then we just started fighting. Like we would just it was,
yeah.
and that's how I got into it. And so I thought when I heard about it, I was like, "Oh, I'm 6'2", 225. I'm yoked out. I'm gonna go in there and crush everybody." And as you know, I came out of there like, "How the fuck did that 120-pound guy just destroy me?"
What the
Right?
fuck just happened?
Yeah, and you either go 2 ways. I always tell people, you either go, "I wanna just keep doing that and learn how this 120-pound guy destroyed me," or you're like, "Fuck that, I'm going back to the pond, we're on the big fish, and I am the badass." And I just got hooked on it. I've been doing it ever since.
Ah,
And I think a lot of people. I was talking to the black belt yesterday, and he owns, another studio, and he says, "How" "You have any marketing tips?" I said, "Well, it's hard because we're trying to sell something that people, A, hopefully will never need, right, in defending themselves, but also
mhm.
it's hard, and people don't wanna do hard shit. They get banged up, and it's just like, I'm not the greatest salesperson, but it's like, how do you sell something to that? Like, you're gonna be hurt, you're gonna get sore, you're gonna do all this, but you need it. Like, how do you sell the
Yeah,
benefits of it as opposed to, you might miss work a week because you broke your leg, whatever the case is.
yeah,
And
it's tough.
you gotta find that mentality of people to where it's like that's why I have a lot of jujitsu guys on my podcast because we all think the same way. It's like, yeah, we're gonna get
Yeah,
fucked up, but we're gonna come right back tomorrow and do the exact same thing. Hopefully not the same technique that we're not gonna get
yeah,
hurt, but it's like there's something in our I don't know what they call it, a craw, or whatever, that we're all wired that way, and we gotta try to get more people into that world, and it's hard. It's hard to get people to commit to something that we are so passionate about, and I don't know how to do it. I mean, I'm still trying to get people in the Savage Syndicate. He's trying to get people into an academy, but it's just like once you're in that group, you're in for
yeah.
life, man. There's no way.
Well, it
There's no
is
way getting it.
tough, we're such a society of instant gratification, right? You want that package next day from Amazon, everything's click, click, immediate, but then yeah, something like jujitsu, it's like, well, it's gonna suck, it's gonna take a long time, you're gonna get hurt, it's
Yeah,
expensive,
yeah. And there's
it's a
always
hard
somebody better.
sell.
You're never if you're the toughest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. You're always going to be getting
Yeah.
beat up by somebody.
I say that all the time, man. It's very true, and I just think that, like I said before, it's such a small percentage of the population that it's tough, but the people that are dedicated to it are all in, and it seems like they told us once in the teams, you'll be more of a team guy once you leave the Navy than when you're in. And that's kind of a weird statement. Well, when you're in the teams, everyone's just like you. You're surrounded by your platoon of SEALs, your team of SEALs. Like it's normal. These are your bros. When you leave the Navy and you're the only dude, and it's like, wow, I'm not like these other people. And they're looking at you like you're just some freakish monster dude. And so it's the same with jujitsu. When you're outside that community, you realize how rare it is.
Yeah.
But when you're in it, you're like, hey, this is it. This is my
Right.
pond.
Yeah.
It's
I
weird, but
when I
it's too
first met
too
my
small.
in-laws, this was back early 2000s, 90s even. And I met her in 2006, and I was heavily into the regional MMA scene. And her parents were like, "Isn't that like cockfighting?" And like you I was so like, I was so into the world of MMA and fighting that that's all I hung out with, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "To me, it's a chess match," and they're like, "Yeah, whatever."
Yeah,
You
yeah,
sit there and beat each other. I'm like, "You're never if you that's your mentality, you're never gonna get it, so I won't even try to sell you on."
yeah,
And, yeah, obviously, I've been married almost 20 years. We don't talk to them anymore, which is fine, but it's like it I'm not in the business of trying to actually, I am because I try to teach people how to be hard to kill, but of trying to persuade people into getting that, like, once you're in that class, then you can talk to that person because however their journey was to get there, you can kind
yeah,
of, like, plant that seed more. But for people on the outside who think jujitsu is just, whatever their thoughts are negative, it's like,
yeah.
fuck it, why bother talking to those people about our passion?
Well, they don't understand, like, that, yeah, you might be trying to murder each other for a 5-minute sparring session, but it's out of love. It's iron sharpens iron.
Yeah,
And then it kind of reminds me, remember in grade school, you'd fight a dude, but then you were best friends.
yeah,
Like that's that camaraderie through the trial by fire. I mean, yep, for that 5-minute sparring match, you're trying to do your best. But when it's over, man, even if you get crushed by like a brown belt or whatever, yeah,
yeah,
you did a good job, good defense, or whatever it is, and you hug each other. Like it's just the outsiders don't see that love. And even MMA or the UFC, like a lot of those guys are brothers, man.
yeah,
It's that iron sharpens iron, and it's to us, it is a chess match, a challenge, a game, a sport. Like, but the team building, the connection, they don't see that. They just see it as like gladiatorial. These two
yeah,
dudes trying to kill each other. It's like no, it's not that at all.
yeah.
It's what it
I
might appear to be.
Yeah, that's what I think that's perfect. People on the outside think it's just like we go in there and we freaking just kill each other. But how many times, somebody's trying to literally rip your arm off, you tap and you like give knuckles, and you go right back at it and hope you're not getting your
Yeah.
arm ripped off. But it's like, and people don't understand that. The people like my injuries, like I've had shoulder surgery. A cop got overzealous on it. I tapped and he still cranked it. I wasn't mad. I was like kind of mad at myself for not getting that position. But it's like I've never
Yeah.
hated anybody who's caused my injuries or did any of that. It's like I learned from it, right? It's a hard lesson to
Yep.
learn. You learn from it and you get back up and hopefully you won't do that again and you knuckle and you maybe
Yeah.
go up barbecue, jiu-jitsu family barbecues or whatever. It's like it's
Yeah.
family.
I love those. We do that at the park every so often, every couple months. We'll just have big barbecue at the park, and
Yeah.
then towards the end, we'll all throw on our gis and take a big group photo. And it is a family, dude. It's awesome,
Yeah.
man.
We do that at the beach because we're down here and we do end of summer beach barbecues and it's
Oh,
just
man.
my two passions are surfing and fighting. So it's like to have it's just, it's it's life changing. And my son, luckily for me, I've never forced anything on him. He competes in surfing and jujitsu as well. So now he's picked up flag
Oh,
football. But I think like what we talked about earlier is I'll always stay in shape because I got to keep up with him. I don't want to be the dad that says, go out and go find somebody to play football with. It's like, no, I'm
yeah.
the dad. I got to go out there. It doesn't matter if I'm not feeling well. It's like that kid's got energy. I want to be the one who steps up. And if I have a beer belly and I can't do it because I'm hungover, then that's a fail on me. And I feel like a piece of shit
Uh,
to get to that stage. But luckily, that's always been my mind is like, show him, don't just tell him. So we surf together, we roll together, everything we do.
that's
I
so
love that with
awesome, dude.
you,
That's your legacy, man. When you're
right?
old, and he'll remember that, man, dad always, we were surfing and jitsing around and all that.
Yeah,
Like that's so
it,
valuable, and any fathers out there listening, they need to do the same. Be involved with your kids, because I really wasn't, because of my career fields. There was a big gap. I did have a second chance when they were teenagers, but at that age, they kind of want to do their own thing anyway. Like dad ain't as cool anymore. They want to hang out with their friends or their girlfriend. Or I'm like,
yeah.
damn. So
Well,
that's why when I see you do your thing, I'm like, that dude's spot on, man. That's
well,
you're in those golden years where your son's gonna remember that forever, man. It's so
well,
cool.
thank you. But he's getting to that embarrassing stage because I drop him off at school and we'll be listening to Motley. He loves Motley Crue, Metallica.
Oh, nice.
So we're
Yeah, yeah.
rocking it on the way. And then I'm like, let's roll down the windows to tell everybody at school. And he's like, no, 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 no. Roll the windows up. Dad. He cranks it down. He's like, no, dad. And I don't even get a hug or a kiss anymore. He's like running out of the car. I'm like, bye, son.
He just gives you the nod, You're like,
Oh, if I even
"Ah."
get that now, because he's worried I'm gonna crank back up the music. So I'm getting to that embarrassing dad stage now, but
Yeah. That's alright, they'll come back to you in their 20s, dude, they'll realize that that is pretty cool.
I heard somewhere that we only get like 18 summers, right? When you count it down, it's like, and
Yeah.
the other day, my wife's like, oh, I told her because I said, oh, we're getting to that embarrassing stage. Like, she goes, well, we only have like 8 more where we can actually still partake in it before he does
Isn't
his
that
own thing.
crazy?
Yeah.
Dude, I
So,
saw something, a chart the other day. It said, by the time your kid turns 18, you have spent 90% of the time you will ever spend with them.
wow.
And I was like, it just kind of shocked me. But then I looked at my life and I said, that's true. Once
Yeah.
I left for college and the military and beyond, I see my mom maybe once a year for a week. You're like,
Yeah.
holy crap, you don't realize how valuable those 18 years are because that's 90% of the time you're going to see that human being for the rest of their life. And it's kind of shocking. Like, so
Yeah.
any parents out there, if you're in that window, absorb every day because once it's gone, all my kids are out. One's 19, 28, and 30. So we're on that once a year type schedule. And man,
Yeah.
what a bummer. It's
One of my
absorbed that time.
mentors, he always says he writes letters to his parents. He's like, I call him. He goes, I text him. I try to get better at this. My mom actually is in the hospital right now, and I call. If I'm thinking about you, I'm gonna text or call and just be like, hey, because one day, and unfortunately,
Yeah.
like I've never told anybody this. I've saved my mom's voicemails because she's battled cancer 5 times. She's in the hospital right now, and I wanna
Mm.
have those fuck, I've never told anybody this. I wanna have those
Oh,
for,
bro.
like, when if shit ever hits the fan, I wanna have those, like,
Can
I'm
always hear her
I'm
voice.
yeah, I'm almost up to 15. You know what I should
Ah,
do after our starting conversation? I should transfer them over because who knows with these iPhones, they might zap it and I might lose
yeah,
everything, so,
I would, dude.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's yeah,
that's a good thought. I'm gonna start doing that,
yeah. Another
save a
thing is,
couple voicemails.
when my son was born, I created an email for him, and my aunts, uncles, everybody has been sending him emails since he's been born, like little pictures of him or like little notes.
Ah,
So hopefully, when he's 18, or I don't know, when we don't come cool anymore or something, he can open up that
yeah.
email and it's his life. Like whatever people thought of him or whatever,
Ah, that's
it's in there.
awesome.
Yeah.
That
So
is cool.
yeah, family. That's my wife and kid right there. That's everything I do.
Oh, that's
Being a
good. That's
protector is just, like you said, you've done all your hard shit, and now you're just, that's where I think of now is like I can do well in a cage with one on one if we go. Now I train for the multiple attackers or the carjackings or this or that
mm,
because my number one goal is to get home to them every day, and that's why I do jujitsu. That's why I do Muay Thai. That's why I do a lot of hard shit because I don't ever want to, my those assholes out there aren't taking days off, so
yeah.
I can't start, focusing on other shit that doesn't help being a protector. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, that's true, and you've passed that torch on to your kid by introducing him to that lifestyle, and hopefully that's like a family dynasty. That's why I wanted my daughter to come in, and I wanted her to do jujitsu with me because then I wanted her to maybe get her kids into
Yeah.
it, and maybe I'm the beginning. Yeah, I'll be the Helio Gracie of my family. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it all started with Grandpa Clark, great great Grandpa Clark. You know, so
Yeah.
that's why I thought how valuable something like that is to set people up to be good but be prepared people. And so that's you passing that torch to your son and getting him involved in the age, and hopefully he stays with that. And I mean that's the best thing we can do is at least prepare our kids for the crazy world that it is these days,
Yeah.
and teach them to not be afraid of it because the world is not getting better. You and I grew up in a really good era. I
Yeah.
can't imagine being a kid now, man. They need more guidance than ever before. So I fell in love with your page, dude. I'm like, this dude is so cool. I wish I could have my kids 10 again, and like I would do so much cool shit with them, man.
Well, thank you. I
Uh,
appreciate that. And, I like yours as well. I really got a kick out of when you got your blue gi and you
yeah.
were dancing around. I actually got a blue gi after that, and I thought of you because I had to get a new gi. And I'm 6'2", so some of them fit, some of them don't. And at our
uh,
studio, he's like, "I think that one will fit." And I tried it on. It was blue. I've never had a blue gi
uh.
before. I went back. I'm like, "My man Clark was dancing." I'm not gonna do that on video, but I thought about that.
It did, it felt a little bit like a pimp suit because 'cause I've always been a white gi guy, but then I saw this gi was like a tribute to the original, Gracie Baja gi, and I thought that I like the retro origin story type stuff of things.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, dude, if I'm ever gonna get a blue gi, that's the one because it looks like maybe something Elvis would wear or Evil Knievel, bro.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if there's a blue gi, that's the one. And I put it on. I said, I feel a little pimpish in this thing, man. Blue on blue, baby. I
You
need
look
some
good,
blue
my man. You
shoes.
look good. I've always been a black geek guy because I've always felt with the white one, I feel like I should be at like the Ritz Carlton having breakfast or something in my room.
Like little
So
tuxedo or something.
yeah, so I always wear a black one. Before the blue one, I've always had black, and then now the blue one is my everyday
Nice.
one.
Yeah, the blue feels good, right?
We're doing warm ups, and I see myself in the mirror, and I'm not used to it yet. I'm like, who is that guy in that blue gi over
Who's
there?
that dude? Yeah.
Well, Clark, my man, we've almost gone 2 hours. I really appreciate, I mean, your story full circle. I love everything about our conversation, my man. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, man. And dude, sometime I'd like to have you on my podcast. I know you're a busy dude, but I think you are the epitome of good vibes and the your journey and the way you are with your family. And so the invitation is always there. Anytime you got a free Sunday, man, let's have you on our show and get to know you kind of your
Yeah,
origin story and stuff, man. You're a cool
for
dude.
sure. I like the good vibe thing. I have a clothing line called Happy Beach Vibe.
Oh,
Because I
nice.
was always doing this. Like when I was fighting a lot, every picture is like this. And then when I'm doing family pictures with the fists, I'm like, you know what? Just do the shaka. So I started doing the shaka. So I made a whole clothing line with the shakas, the logo and stuff. And it's like, it's my yin and yang, the surfing laid back shaka. And then I got the
Yeah.
fighting side of it. So anytime, my man, I'll make time for you 100%. So just let me know. But if you want people to follow you or reach out to you, if they have any questions, what's the best way to reach you?
Best way is just my Instagram. It's just Clark_Impastato, and I respond to as many messages as I can. You know, I scroll through them, and so I'm pretty good about responding. So that's the best way to um, kind of get involved with my silly little world. You know, I post a little bit of this and that, and just have fun with it. So
Well, I have talked about guitars and everything else, but maybe we'll leave that when I'm on your podcast because I see the guitar back there, and yeah, we can keep going, but I want to respect your time. But Clark, again, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday, my man.
yeah, thank you, brother. Take care, dude.
All right, see you, brother.
See ya.